Most people walk the Noosa Coastal Trail for the views. I walked it for the same reason. But about 300 meters in, I realized I've been traveling wrong for years. I didn't come to the Noosa Coastal Walk looking for insight. That's usually when insight shows up. When you go searching for meaning, it tends to hide. But when you stop asking for it, sometimes it quietly finds you. The trail begins almost invisibly at the end of Hastings Street. No dramatic entrance, just a path tracing the edge of the continent, where land slowly gives way to ocean. When I stepped onto the trail, I was carrying something most travelers bring with them: momentum. My body was moving forward, but my mind was still somewhere else, thinking about what I should see, what photos I should take, what this walk might give me. Old habits. We've been trained to extract value from every experience, but the coastline didn't seem particularly interested in performing. 300 meters into the walk, the trail delivers your first viewpoint. And that's where I realized I'd been traveling wrong for years. Not because of what I saw, but because of what I almost didn't. The lookout is called Boiling Pot. Waves surge into a rocky cavity where the ocean churns like a giant cauldron. Water rushes in, foams violently, drains away, and fills again. Most people take a photo and keep walking. I almost did too, but something made me stop. So I tried a small experiment. I watched 3 full wave cycles. The first cycle, I was still performing, checking the light, thinking about photos. The second cycle, something shifted. I noticed the rhythm: fill, overflow, drain, then repeat. The third cycle, I recognized the pattern. It looked a lot like our lives. We fill our days until everything churns, drain ourselves trying to keep up, then immediately fill the pot again before we've settled. But the boiling pot doesn't resist the ocean. It simply receives whatever arrives. Standing there, I wondered what it would feel like to receive life that way. About a kilometer later, the walk quietly asks you a question. Most people answer it without realizing, but it determines whether you're actually doing the walk or just sampling it. At Tea Tree Bay, the boardwalk ends. Up until now, the path has been smooth and predictable. After this, dirt, roots, real ground. Nothing dramatic, just enough to change your relationship with the walk. Because once the pavement ends, you have to decide something. Am I actually doing this trail, or am I just visiting the highlights? The bay itself is quietly beautiful. Surfers watching the waves, families on the sand, and sometimes, if you look carefully, a koala sleeping high in the trees. But the real lesson here isn't spotting the koala. It's learning to look slowly enough that you might. Most of us move through places cataloging what we've seen instead of noticing what's actually there. We collect sights like receipts, proof we didn't waste time. But the koala doesn't care if you see it. The bay doesn't care if you photograph it. Beauty doesn't need witnesses. So I stepped off the pavement, onto dirt, and kept walking. Further along the trail is a place called Dolphin Point, and I didn't see a single dolphin, but missing them turned out to be the most important part of the day. From the headland, you can often see dolphins traveling along the coast, sometimes in large pods. So naturally, the first question people ask is, "Did you see dolphins?" But this is where soul-seeing is different from sightseeing. Sightseeing says, if I came for dolphins and didn't see dolphins, the experience is worse. Soul-seeing asks a different question. What am I noticing while I'm not seeing dolphins? I watched sunlight slide across the water. I saw an osprey hovering above the ocean with impossible patience. I noticed waves forming patterns that would never repeat again. And I realized something simple. You don't need to see everything to be present for something. So I stayed there longer than I needed to. Not waiting for dolphins, just being where I was. Near the end of the walk, the coastline reveals its most dramatic point. And strangely, it doesn't make you feel bigger. It makes everything else feel smaller. At Hell's Gates, the continent ends in a collision of rock and water. Waves slam into cliffs with enough force you feel it in your chest. Spray rises 20 feet into the air. Standing there, something happens that often happens in wild places. Your problems shrink. Not in a depressing way, in a liberating way. That decision you've been worrying about, that conversation replaying in your head, against the scale of ocean and stone, they become appropriately sized. Sometimes what we need most isn't answers, it's perspective. By the time I walked back to town, something had changed. Not the trail, just the way I was paying attention. That's what I call soul-seeing, not rushing from landmark to landmark, not measuring travel by what you captured, but letting a place work on you, at its own pace. So wherever you are next, a coastline, a forest, even a city park, try this. Walk without an agenda. The world is already speaking. Most of the time, we're just moving too fast to hear it.